嗨，周末愉快，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到 Jenny 周末来闲聊。今天想跟你聊一个很私密的话题，是关于一个人的周末，一个人的时光，一个人的仪式感。你有没有这种感觉？周末早上醒来，旁边没有人，整个空间都是你的，那一刻其实可以很美，但有时候也会觉得有点空洞，有点不知所措，对不对？现代人很奇怪，明明工作的时候一直想要独处，但真的一个人的时候，又不知道怎么和自己相处。这个矛盾你有没有体会过？今天我们就来好好聊聊这件事，怎么把一个人的周末过得有滋有味，过得有自己的节奏，过得有属于自己的仪式感。我想先说一个很重要的观念，孤独跟寂寞不是同一件事。这两个词我们常常混用，但它们其实是完全不同的状态。寂寞是一种痛苦的感受，是渴望有人陪，却没有人在的那种感觉，是一种被动的状态，是感觉自己被遗漏在外面。但孤独不一样，孤独是一种选择，是主动选择和自己在一起，是一种非常高级的生活能力。能够享受孤独的人，其实内心非常丰富。哲学家保罗·田利克说过一句话，他说语言创造了孤独这个词，目的是为了表达独处的恩典。你看，连哲学家都说独处是一种恩典，心理学家也说了很多。亚伯拉罕·马斯洛在研究自我实现的人的时候，发现这些人有一个共同特质，就是他们都能够很舒服地独处，他们不依赖外界的刺激来维持自己的快乐，他们的快乐来自内部，所以能够享受独处，不是一个缺点，而是一种成熟的标志。那么什么是仪式感呢？仪式感这个词最近很流行，但它有时候被误解了。很多人以为仪式感就是要花很多钱，要买很多东西，要把生活弄得很精致的样子。其实不是的，仪式感的本质非常简单，就是你对某件事投入了全部的专注，你让这件事变得有一点不一样，让这个时刻脱离了日常的流水账，让它变得只属于你。仪式感是一种宣告，你用行动告诉自己，这个时刻很重要，我在乎这个时刻，我愿意把我的注意力完全给它。这个宣告不需要任何观众，它只需要你自己知道。好，我们来聊几个具体的方向。一个人的周末仪式感可以从哪里开始？第一个方向，从早晨的第一杯饮料开始。你有没有注意到一件事？我们跟咖啡的关系，其实很像我们跟某个老朋友的关系，每天都见面，有时候觉得理所当然，但如果某天没有他，就会觉得哪里不对劲。咖啡的历史很有趣，你知道最早的咖啡馆不是在欧洲吗？是在15世纪的也门，一个叫做摩卡的城市。这也是为什么有一种咖啡叫做摩卡，就是从那里来的。后来咖啡传到鄂图曼帝国，在伊斯坦堡的咖啡馆里，人们聚在一起聊天、下棋、说故事。那个地方被称为智慧学校，就是咖啡馆。在1670年代的英国，伦敦的咖啡馆是资讯流通的中心，商人在里面谈生意，文人在里面交流思想，有些保险公司和股票交易所都是从咖啡馆里诞生的。你看，咖啡不只是一种饮料，它承载着人类的社交和思考的历史。但今天我要说的不是咖啡馆，而是你一个人在家泡一杯咖啡的那个仪式。试试看这样做，把手机放到另一个房间，把你最喜欢的杯子拿出来，那个你舍不得每天用的杯子，周末就是要用它。慢慢等水烧开，看着水蒸气升起来，闻那个香气，然后慢慢倒，看着颜色慢慢变深，然后坐下来，不要拿手机，不要看电视，就喝咖啡，感受那个温度从你的手心一路传进来，感受那个苦和香在你嘴里慢慢展开，感受自己在这个早晨里慢慢醒过来。光是这样，就是一个非常完整的仪式了。有个研究很有意思，科学家发现我们喝咖啡的器皿会影响我们感受到的味道， 用你喜欢的杯子喝，咖啡真的会比较好喝。这不是心理作用，这是真实的感官反应。所以那个舍不得用的好杯子，就在这个周末早晨拿出来吧。喝咖啡这件事教会我们一个道理，有些事情慢下来才好喝，有些时光是值得珍惜的。生活也是一样的道理。当然，有人不喝咖啡，喝茶也很好，喝一杯温热的牛奶也很好，甚至只是一杯加了柠檬的温水。重点不是喝什么，重点是那个专注的当下，那个你把所有注意力放在这一件小事上的当下。第二个方向，阅读。我跟你坦白，很多人说自己爱阅读，但其实每次拿起书，没看2页就滑手机了。你有没有这个毛病？我有时候也有。有个很有趣的研究，2012年英国萨塞克斯大学做的，他们找来一群受试者，让他们在压力测试之后，分别进行不同的放松活动。有人听音乐，有人喝茶，有人散步，有人阅读。结果发现，阅读6分钟可以降低68%的压力水准，比听音乐效果还要好，比散步效果还要好，比喝一杯茶效果还要好。就只是读书6分钟，为什么呢？因为阅读需要你进入文字创造的世界，你的意识必须离开当下的烦恼，跟著作者的思路走。这是一种非常有效的精神转换，就像暂时去了另一个宇宙，然后带着更新的能量回来。但我想说的不只是阅读本身，而是一个人阅读的仪式感。周末的阅读可以不一样，不用带着目的，不用读什么有用的书，不用做笔记，不用学什么技能，不用提升自己的竞争力。这个周末，你就选一本让你感到愉快的书，可以是小说，可以是散文，可以是诗集，可以是一本介绍日本咖啡馆文化的书，可以是一本充满美丽照片的旅游书，什么都可以，只要你翻开它的时候觉得开心。然后找一个你最舒服的角落，不一定要坐在书桌前，可以窝在沙发上，可以躺在床上，可以坐在窗边，让光线刚刚好，再泡那杯咖啡或茶，然后翻开书。这就是一个人最奢侈的周末下午，有没有？我有个朋友叫做小文，他是个非常忙碌的行销主管，周一到周五几乎没有自己的时间，但他每个周六下午都会给自己2个小时，在家里靠窗的沙发上读一本他自己选的书，不接电话，不回讯息，旁边放一杯他泡的茶，就这样2个小时。他说那是他一周里面最属于自己的时刻，那2个小时让他充电充到满格，让他可以用很好的状态面对下一周。这就是仪式感的力量，不是因为做了什么伟大的事，而是那个时刻完完全全属于你自己。说到阅读，我想多说一点，很多人问说我没有读书习惯，要怎么开始？最简单的方法就是从很薄的书开始，或者从你真的有好奇心的主题开始，不要一开始就挑战那种很厚的哲学书。你可以从一本100页的短篇小说开始，从一本你喜欢的人推荐的书开始，从一个你好奇的主题的入门书开始。而且周末阅读有一个很棒的地方，就是你不需要读完，你可以停在任何你喜欢停的地方，你可以在最精彩的地方停下来，然后想象接下来会怎样。那种期待感是一种很纯粹的快乐。第3个方向，身体的练习。说到跟自己独处，其实最直接的方式就是跟自己的身体在一起。我们平常花很多时间想事情，脑子不停运转，但我们很少好好感受自己的身体，那个呼吸的节奏，那个肌肉的感觉，那个重心在哪里。身体其实是我们最忠实的朋友，它一直在跟我们说话。我累了，我饿了，我紧张了，我需要休息了，但我们太忙了，所以常常没有听到。周末是一个很好的机会，让我们把注意力还给身体。瑜伽是一个很好的媒介，不是因为它能让你变瘦，不是因为它能让你更柔软，而是因为它要求你把注意力 从脑袋移到身体，那是一种很特别的回到自己的感觉。瑜伽这个词来自梵文，原本的意思是连结，是把身体、心灵和呼吸连结在一起。所以瑜伽的本质不是一种运动，它是一种冥想的方式，只是透过身体动作来达到的冥想。你有没有做过一个动作叫做山式？就是站住，双脚平行分开，宽度大概跟肩膀一样，背脊往上延伸，肩膀放松往后打开，双手自然垂放在身体两侧，眼睛闭上，感受自己的脚踩在地板上，就这样站着，什么都不做。你可以感受到自己的重力，感受到地板的支撑，感受到呼吸让身体微微起伏，感受到自己活着。这个动作看起来很简单，但做起来其实不容易，因为我们的脑子会一直跑掉，想这个想那个。但每次你把注意力拉回身体，就是一次小小的练习，练习活在当下的能力。周末可以给自己30分钟，不用什么复杂的动作，就跟着感觉走，从梗子开始，慢慢往下，感受每一个部位，听听身体在说什么。跳绳也很好哦，这个我有亲身体验。跳绳需要节奏感，需要你的注意力完全在跳的这件事上，你没有办法一边跳绳一边想昨天的烦恼，因为一分神就踩到绳子了。所以跳绳本身就是一种正念练习，强迫你的大脑只能活在当下，而且非常有效率。20分钟让你全身活络，头脑清醒，心情变好，是一个人周末早晨的好选择。我自己跳绳已经很多年了，有时候心情不好，或者思绪很乱的时候，跳个20分钟，出来之后整个人清爽很多。不是因为解决了什么问题，而是因为在那20分钟里，你只需要专心跳，问题也就先放下了。然后你会发现很多事情没有你以为的那么严重。第4个方向，写日记或者自我对话。你有没有试过跟自己说话？不是对着镜子那种，而是用文字。写日记这件事，有非常多科学研究支持。心理学家詹姆斯·彭尼贝克在1980年代做了一系列著名的研究，他让受试者连续写几天的日记，有人写情绪性的内容，把自己的感受完全道出来，有人只写事实，有人不写任何东西。结果发现，把自己的情绪和感受写出来的那组，心理健康明显改善，焦虑和忧郁感降低，免疫系统的指标也比较好，而且这个效果维持了好几个月。为什么写作有这么大的力量？研究者认为，当我们把混乱的感受转化成文字，我们就是在帮这些感受创造一个结构，让它从一种模糊的痛苦变成一个可以被看见和理解的东西。这个过程让我们的大脑找到意义，而找到意义是疗愈的关键。你不需要写很多，也不需要写得文情并茂，就只是把你今天感受到的事情，用你自己的话写下来，可以是很简单的东西。今天早上的咖啡特别香，今天天气很好，让我心情很好，今天有点想念某个人，今天做了一个很奇怪的梦，今天读了一本书很有感觉，都可以。或者你可以问自己几个问题，然后把答案写下来。这周让我最开心的一件事是什么？这周让我最困扰的事是什么？最近有没有什么事情让我特别有能量？最近有没有什么事情让我特别耗电？如果可以对1个月前的自己说一件事，你会说什么？当你把这些问题写下来，你会惊讶地发现，原来答案自己就会跑出来。很多时候我们不是不知道答案，只是没有给自己机会安静下来问自己。我有段时间每天早上都会写1页，就1页，不管写什么，有时候写昨晚做的梦，有时候写对今天的期待，有时候只是把脑子里转来转去的念头倒出来，好像在清空一个快要满出来的水桶。那个习惯让我觉得自己跟自己更亲近了。听起来有点奇怪，对不对？跟自己更亲近，但我觉得这是真的。很多人对别人非常了解，对朋友的喜好如数家珍， 但如果你问他自己最喜欢什么样的周末，最享受什么样的独处方式，他可能答不太出来。写日记可以帮你慢慢认识自己，而认识自己是一个人好好独处的基础。第5个方向，创造一个只属于自己的小角落。你有没有一个地方是专门属于你自己的？不是客厅，不是餐桌，是那个感觉只有你在的角落。可能是窗边的一张椅子，可能是床头的一个小空间，可能是阳台的一个角落，可能是泡澡的时候浴室里的那个安静。这个空间不需要很大，重点是它让你感觉安全，感觉放松，感觉可以真正做自己。日本人有个很美的概念叫做间，这个字的意思是空间、间隔、停顿，但它的内涵比这些都更丰富。它指的是那种有意义的留白，就像音乐里的静默，让前后的声音都变得更有深度。一个人的周末空间也是这样，它是你生活里的留白，让其他忙碌的日子都变得更有意义。怎么打造这个属于自己的角落？很简单，你只需要做一件事，就是把你喜欢的东西放在那里。一盆你喜欢的植物，一本你最近在读的书，一个你很喜欢的马克杯，一个让你闻到就觉得放松的香氛，几个让你看到就微笑的小物件。不需要很贵，不需要在社群媒体上看起来很漂亮，只需要让你自己看到它们，就觉得开心。然后每次你坐进那个角落，你的身体和心理就会知道，现在是我的时间了。这就是仪式感训练的方式，不是靠意志力，而是靠环境，靠那个角落给你的信号。说到这里，我想跟你分享一个很重要的概念，叫做自我关怀，或者说得更白话一点，就是对自己好一点。我们对朋友通常非常好，朋友做错事，我们会安慰他；朋友难过，我们会陪着他；朋友需要帮忙，我们会伸出手。但我们对自己呢？是不是常常比对别人严苛很多？自己做错了就一直责怪自己，自己难过了却说要撑着，自己需要休息了却说不行要继续。心理学家克里斯汀·纳纳夫研究自我关怀多年，他说自我关怀有3个核心要素。第一是对自己仁慈，就是像对待好朋友一样对待自己。第二是共同人性，就是知道你并不孤单，所有人都会有困难的时候。第三是正念，就是以平衡的方式看待自己的感受，不过度沉溺也不回避。一个人独处的周末是练习自我关怀的最好机会，你可以试试看这个练习，把自己当成一个你很爱的朋友，然后问问看，这个朋友现在需要什么？他累了吗？他需要好好睡一觉吗？他需要吃点好吃的东西吗？他想要安静吗？还是他需要一点刺激和新鲜感？然后去满足这个需求，不是为了别人，是为了自己。这听起来很自私，对不对？但其实不是。当你把自己照顾好，你才有能量去照顾别人。当你和自己的关系是健康的，你和别人的关系也会更健康。这个道理就像飞机上的紧急指示，先帮自己戴上氧气面罩，再去帮别人。不是因为你比较重要，而是因为你有能量的时候，才能真正帮到别人。还有一个我很喜欢的概念，叫做一期一会。这是日本茶道里的一个思想，意思是每一次的相遇都是一生一次，这一刻不会再来，所以要全心全意地珍惜当下。这个概念通常用在和别人的相遇上，但我觉得它同样适用于和自己的相遇。每一个安静的周末早晨，每一杯你慢慢泡的咖啡，每一本你翻开的书，每一次你坐在自己的角落，感受那个属于自己的寂静，都是你和自己的一期一会，都是一生中仅此一次的相遇，都值得被你全心全意的珍惜。好了，聊了那么多，我来做个小小的整理。一个人的周末仪式感，不是为了假装自己很享受独处，不是为了在社群媒体上表演一种生活方式，而是真的去学习欣赏那个空间，真的去跟自己建立一段美好的关系。 它可以从很小的事情开始，一杯慢慢泡的咖啡，一本翻开来放松阅读的书，一段跟自己身体对话的练习时间，几行写给自己的日记，一个只属于你的小角落。每一个这样的小仪式，都是你对自己说的一句话。你说我在乎你，你说我看见你，你说这个时刻是属于我们的。而当你开始这样对待自己，你会发现一件很有趣的事情，那些以前觉得有点空洞的独处时光，慢慢的开始变得很饱满，很丰富，甚至开始期待那个时刻。这就是仪式感的魔法，它把平凡变成了特别，它把空洞变成了丰盛，它把一个人的周末变成了一段真正属于你自己的时光。最后我想问你一个问题，你这个周末要送给自己什么仪式感？可以很小，就一杯好咖啡，就一本你一直想翻的书，就20分钟的伸展或跳绳，就是安安静静坐着什么都不做，都很好，都是完美的仪式。好好享受这个周末，好好享受和自己在一起的时光，你值得拥有这样的时刻。我是 Jenny， 我们下次见咯。Hey everyone, happy weekend. I'm Jenny. Welcome to Jenny's Weekend Chat. Today I want to talk about something really personal, something close to the heart. I want to talk about solo weekends, about time that belongs entirely to you, and how to make it feel genuinely special. You know that feeling, right? You wake up on a Saturday morning, nobody else around. The whole space is yours. That moment can be truly beautiful. But sometimes it also feels a little hollow, a little empty. You're not quite sure what to do with yourself. Modern life is strange that way. During the week, when everything is packed and busy, all we want is some time alone. But when we finally get that time, we realize we don't quite know how to be with ourselves. Has that ever happened to you? I think it's actually quite common. We've been so trained to be social, to respond, to react, to engage, that when the noise finally stops, the silence feels unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable, like a room we haven't visited in a long time, and we're not sure we still know how to be in it. But here's what I want to say. That unfamiliar feeling, that slight awkwardness of just being with yourself, is not a sign that something is wrong. It's actually a sign that there's something worth exploring, something worth getting to know. So today, let's sit with this together. Let's talk about how to take a solo weekend and turn it into something rich, nourishing, and genuinely meaningful. Something with what I like to call ritual. First, I want to clear something up. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. We often mix these two words up, but they describe completely different experiences. Loneliness is painful. It's that ache of wanting company but having none. It's a passive state. The feeling of being left out, of being on the outside looking in. Solitude is completely different. Solitude is a choice. It's actively choosing to be with yourself. And it's actually one of the most sophisticated life skills you can develop. People who can genuinely enjoy being alone usually have very rich inner lives. The philosopher Paul Tillich once said something that really stayed with me. He said language created the word solitude in order to express the grace of being alone. Even a philosopher called it grace. So you know we're exploring something genuinely valuable here. Psychologists have written a great deal about this too. When Abraham Maslow studied self-actualized people, he found one quality they almost all shared. They were comfortable being alone. Their happiness came from within, not from constant external stimulation or validation. So being able to enjoy solitude is not a flaw. It's actually a sign of inner maturity. I also want to mention someone else who wrote beautifully about this. The poet and philosopher Rainer Maria Rilke. In his famous collection called Letters to a Young Poet, he wrote that it is good to be solitary, because solitude is difficult. That something is difficult must be a reason the more to do it. Rilke saw solitude as a practice, as something you actively cultivate, not something that just happens to you. And I think that's exactly the right way to look at it. Now, what does ritual really mean? The idea of ritual has been quite trendy lately, but I think it often gets misunderstood. A lot of people think ritual means spending a lot of money, buying beautiful things, making your life look a certain way on social media. It's not that at all. The essence of ritual is actually very simple. It's giving something your full attention, making a moment feel a little different from the ordinary stream, lifting it out of the everyday, and making it yours. Ritual is a kind of declaration. You're telling yourself through action, this moment matters. I care about this moment. I'm willing to give it my complete attention. This declaration doesn't need any audience. It only needs to be known by you. Okay, let's get into the practical stuff. How do you actually build a solo weekend with ritual? Where do you start? The first direction. Start with your very first drink of the morning. Have you noticed something interesting? Our relationship with coffee is kind of like our relationship with an old friend. We see them every single day. We sometimes take them for granted. But if they're gone one morning, something just feels wrong. The history of coffee is genuinely fascinating. Did you know the first coffee houses were not in Europe? They were in 15th century Yemen, in a city called Mocha. And yes, that's exactly where the mocha drink gets its name. Coffee then traveled to the Ottoman Empire. In the coffee houses of Istanbul, people gathered together, talking, playing chess, exchanging ideas. Those places were actually nicknamed schools of wisdom. Think about that for a moment. A coffee shop is a school of wisdom. In London during the 1670s, coffee houses became the information hubs of their time. Merchants did business there. Thinkers exchanged ideas there. Some of the earliest insurance companies and early stock exchanges were actually born in coffee houses. Coffee carries an extraordinary amount of human history. It's never just a drink. And there's something else worth knowing about coffee. The ritual of coffee preparation has been studied by anthropologists and behavioral scientists. What they found is that preparation rituals, the grinding, the brewing, the waiting, actually enhance the pleasure of the final drink. The effort and attention we put into preparing something changes how we experience it. This isn't just about coffee. It applies to anything we do with full presence and intention. But today I'm not talking about cafes. I'm talking about you, at home, brewing your own cup, and turning that into a ritual. Here's what I suggest you try. Put your phone in another room. Get out your favorite mug. That special one you've been saving for important occasions. Well, your solo weekend morning is an important occasion. So use it today. Slowly wait for the water to heat up. Watch the steam rising. Breathe in that aroma before anything else. Then pour slowly. Watch the color deepen. Then sit down. No phone. No TV. Just your coffee. Feel that warmth traveling through your palms. Feel the bitterness and fragrance slowly unfolding in your mouth. Feel yourself waking up into this particular morning. Here's a small experiment to try. Next weekend, do this deliberately. Make your coffee in complete silence. No podcast, no music, no background noise. Just the sound of the water, the coffee, your breathing. Notice what comes up. Your mind might feel a little restless at first. It's used to being entertained. But after a few minutes, something usually shifts. The restlessness gives way to something quieter. Something that feels like arrival. Like you've actually landed in this morning, rather than skimming through it. That landing is precious. That's what we're building toward. That right there is a complete and perfect ritual, isn't it? There's some interesting research on this. Scientists found that the vessel we drink from actually affects the flavor we perceive. Drinking from a mug you genuinely love makes the coffee taste measurably better. This isn't imagination. It's a real sensory response. So that beautiful mug you've been saving, bring it out this weekend. Coffee teaches us something quietly profound. Some things taste better when you slow down. Some moments are worth savoring. Life works the same way. And of course, if you don't drink coffee, tea is wonderful. Warm milk works beautifully. Even just a glass of warm water with lemon. The point isn't what you're drinking. It's the quality of attention you bring to it. The second direction. Reading. I'll be completely honest with you. A lot of people say they love reading. But in reality they pick up a book, read 2 pages, and then reach for their phone. Do you have this habit? I do sometimes too. There's a fascinating study from 2012. Researchers at the University of Sussex in England brought in a group of participants, put them through a stress test, then gave different groups different ways to relax. Some listened to music, some had tea, some went for a walk, some read. The results were surprising. Reading for just 6 minutes reduced stress levels by 68%. Better than listening to music. Better than going for a walk. Better than having tea. Just 6 minutes of reading. Why does it work so well? Because reading requires you to enter the world that words create. Your mind has to actually leave your current worries behind. It has to follow the author's thoughts. It's an incredibly effective mental reset. Like briefly visiting another universe and coming back refreshed. But what I really want to talk about is not just reading. It's the ritual of reading alone. Weekend reading can be completely different from weekday reading. No goals required. No useful books required. No notes, no highlights, no skill building. No improving your competitive edge. This weekend, just pick a book that brings you genuine pleasure. A novel, essays, poetry, a beautifully photographed book about Japanese coffee culture, a travel book full of stunning pictures. Anything at all. As long as opening it makes you happy. Then find your most comfortable spot. Not necessarily at a desk. Curl up on the sofa. Lie on your bed. Sit by the window where the light comes in just right. Get the lighting perfect. Bring your coffee or tea. And open the book. That is one of the most genuinely luxurious solo afternoons you can have. Don't you think? I have a friend named Xiaowen. She's a busy marketing director. Monday through Friday, her time is almost never her own. But every single Saturday afternoon, she gives herself 2 hours. On the sofa by her window. Reading whatever book she chose that week. Phone on silent. Messages unanswered. Tea beside her. Just 2 hours. She says those 2 hours are the most completely hers out of the entire week. They recharge her fully. And they let her meet the next week with energy and clarity. She told me once that she used to feel guilty about it. Like she should be doing something more productive. Using the time to run errands, catch up on work, see people. But she kept the habit anyway. And over time, the guilt faded. Because she could feel the difference. The weeks where she protected that reading time were consistently better than the weeks where she didn't. Not because she read anything particularly useful, but because she had 2 hours of being completely, deliberately herself. And that fills something in a person. Something that productivity and social activity simply cannot fill. That's the power of ritual. Not because you accomplished something grand, but because that time belonged entirely to you. A quick note for those who don't yet have a reading habit. The simplest way to start is to begin with a very short book, or a subject you're genuinely curious about. Don't challenge yourself with thick philosophy books at the start. Begin with a 100-page novel. Begin with something a person you admire recommended. Begin with a beginner-friendly book on a topic that interests you. And weekend reading has one wonderful thing going for it. You don't have to finish. You can stop wherever you like. You can stop at the most exciting moment. And just sit with the anticipation of what comes next. That feeling of looking forward to something is one of life's purest pleasures. I also want to say something about the physical act of reading itself. There's growing research on the difference between reading on screens and reading physical books. Studies suggest that reading printed books leads to better retention and deeper comprehension. But more importantly for our purposes, reading a physical book naturally slows you down. You can't scroll. You can't get a notification pop up. The book asks you to be present with it. And that quality of presence is exactly what we're building with ritual. So if you can, get a physical book for this weekend practice. Feel the weight of it in your hands. Smell the pages. Turn each one deliberately. Let it slow you down. That slowness is a gift. The third direction. A body practice. When it comes to truly being with yourself, the most direct path is actually through your body. We spend so much time in our heads, our minds running constantly, but we rarely pay real attention to our physical selves. The rhythm of our breathing, the feeling in our muscles, where our center of gravity is. Our bodies are actually our most faithful companions. They're always speaking to us. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm anxious. I need rest. But we're often too busy to listen. The weekend is a wonderful opportunity to give your attention back to your body. Yoga is a beautiful bridge for this. Not because it helps you lose weight. Not because it makes you more flexible. But because it asks you to move your awareness from your head down into your body. That feeling of coming home to yourself is genuinely special. The word yoga actually comes from Sanskrit. Its original meaning is union, connecting body, mind, and breath together. So yoga isn't fundamentally an exercise. It's a form of meditation that happens to use the body as its medium. Have you ever tried a pose called mountain pose? You simply stand, feet parallel, about shoulder width apart, spine reaching upward, shoulders relaxed and open, hands resting naturally at your sides, eyes closed, and you feel your feet connecting with the floor beneath you. Just stand there. Nothing else. Feel gravity holding you gently to the earth. Feel your breath making your body rise and fall slightly. Feel what it means to be alive and present. I remember the first time a yoga teacher asked me to really do this. Not just stand there going through the motions, but to actually feel each part of it. The soles of my feet on the mat, the length of my spine, the slight weight of my arms, the temperature of the air entering my nose. She said, "This is your home. This body, this breath, this moment. You always have access to this. Whenever you need to come back." I've never forgotten that. Because it's true. No matter how chaotic things get outside, no matter how loud the noise becomes, you can always come back to this. Your feet on the floor, your breath moving, your body here. This looks incredibly simple, but it's actually not easy to do well. Because our minds keep running off, thinking about this, worrying about that. But each time you bring your attention back to your body, that's a small but meaningful practice. Training the ability to be present. And that ability turns out to be useful everywhere. Not just on the yoga mat, not just during weekend rituals, but in every conversation, every meal, every moment you want to actually inhabit. The weekend practice of coming back to the body trains a skill that improves the whole of your life. Give yourself 30 minutes on the weekend. No complicated sequences required. Just follow how you feel. Start at your neck. Move slowly downward. Notice each part of your body. Listen to what it's telling you. One very simple thing you can do before any other movement is just to breathe deliberately. Sit somewhere comfortable. Close your eyes and breathe in slowly for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Breathe out slowly for a count of 6. Repeat this 5 times. By the time you've done that 5 times, your nervous system is already shifting, moving from the activated, ready to respond state into a calmer, more receptive one. From the mode where you're scanning for problems into the mode where you can actually feel things. This is called the parasympathetic response. It's your body's rest and restore setting. And you activate it just by breathing slowly. That's how powerful simple breath is. From there, you can move into whatever feels right. Some gentle neck rolls, shoulder circles, a forward fold, child's pose on the floor. Whatever your body asks for. The key is not the specific movements. The key is listening. Can you hear what your body is asking for this morning? Can you respond to it the way you would respond to a trusted friend? With care, with attention, with willingness to be present. Jump rope is also wonderful, and I speak from personal experience. Jump rope requires rhythm. It needs your complete attention on the jumping itself. You can't worry about yesterday's problems while you're jumping. Because the moment your mind wanders, you trip. So jump rope is naturally a mindfulness practice. It forces your brain to live in this exact moment. And it's remarkably efficient. 20 minutes wakes up your whole body, clears your mind, lifts your mood. A wonderful choice for a solo weekend morning. I've been jumping rope for many years. Sometimes when my mood is low, or my thoughts are tangled up, I jump for 20 minutes. And afterward the whole world feels clearer. Not because I solved anything, but because for those 20 minutes, I only needed to jump. The problems stepped aside for a moment. And then I usually find that many things weren't as serious as I thought. There's actually a scientific reason for this. Physical exercise, especially rhythmic exercise like jump rope, triggers the release of endorphins and serotonin. These are brain chemicals associated with mood and well-being. But beyond the chemistry, there's something important about moving your body through a challenge and coming out the other side. You feel capable. You feel like you did something. Even if it was just 20 minutes of jumping. That sense of having done something for yourself carries over into the rest of the day. And the rhythm of jump rope is something special. There's a meditative quality to sustained rhythm. Whether it's jumping rope, or running, or swimming laps. When you find a rhythm and stay with it, the mind naturally begins to settle. Not because you're trying to think of nothing, but because the rhythm gives the mind something simple to rest on. Athletes sometimes call this state flow. That feeling of effortless concentration, where time disappears and you're just doing. Jump rope is one of the fastest ways I've found to get there. The fourth direction, journaling and self-dialogue. Have you ever tried talking to yourself? Not in front of a mirror, but through writing? There's solid scientific support for journaling. Psychologist James Pennebaker conducted a series of well-known studies in the 1980s. He had participants write for several consecutive days. Some wrote emotional content, putting all their feelings completely on the page. Some wrote only facts. Some wrote nothing at all. The group that wrote their emotions and feelings showed significant improvements in mental health, lower anxiety and depression, even better immune system markers. And these effects lasted for months afterward. Why is writing so powerful? Researchers believe that when we transform messy feelings into words, we create a structure for those feelings. We turn something vague and painful into something visible and understandable. This process helps our brains find meaning. And finding meaning is central to healing. You don't need to write a lot. You don't need to write beautifully. Just put down what you felt today, in your own words. It can be something tiny. My coffee tasted especially wonderful this morning. The weather was so nice today and it lifted my mood. I've been missing someone lately and I'm not sure why. I had a very strange dream last night. I read something today that really moved me. All of it counts. Or you can ask yourself a few questions and write the answers down. What was the best moment of this week? What bothered me most? What has been giving me the most energy lately? What has been draining me? If I could tell myself one thing from a month ago, what would it be? When you write these questions down, you'll often find that the answers appear on their own. Most of the time, we already know our answers. We just haven't given ourselves the quiet space to ask. I went through a period where I wrote one page every single morning. Just one page. Whatever came out. Sometimes it was a dream from the night before. Sometimes it was what I was anticipating that day. Sometimes it was just emptying out the thoughts spinning around in my head. Like pouring out a bucket that was getting too full. That habit made me feel closer to myself. Which might sound strange. Closer to yourself. But I genuinely believe it's true. Many people know their friends extremely well. They can tell you exactly what their friends enjoy. But ask them what kind of weekend makes them feel most alive. What kind of solitude they find most nourishing. And they might struggle to answer. There's also a creative element to journaling that people often overlook. When you write without any destination in mind, without trying to be smart or coherent or impressive, things surface that you didn't know were there. Ideas you didn't know you had. Feelings you hadn't yet named. Connections between things you hadn't seen before. The philosopher and novelist Iris Murdoch kept journals for most of her life. She described them as a place where she could think in safety. A private laboratory for her mind. Not every journal entry needs to be deep or meaningful. But the practice of having a place to think freely. Without judgment, without performance. That's what journaling can offer you. Even just 5 minutes of writing, before you start anything else on a weekend morning, can completely change the quality of your day. Try it just once. See what comes out. You might surprise yourself. Journaling helps you slowly get to know yourself. And knowing yourself is the foundation of good solitude. The fifth direction. Create a little corner that belongs only to you. Do you have a place that's truly just yours? Not the living room shared with everyone. Not the dining table where meals happen. But a corner that feels like it exists for you alone. Maybe a chair by the window that catches the morning light. Maybe a small space by your bedside. Maybe a spot on the balcony. Maybe the bathtub when you're soaking in quiet. This space doesn't need to be large. What matters is how it makes you feel. Safe. Relaxed. Like you can truly be yourself here. The Japanese have a beautiful concept called ma. It refers to space, interval, and pause. But it carries richer meaning than those translations suggest. It describes meaningful emptiness. Like the silence in music. That makes the sounds around it deeper and more resonant. Your solo weekend space is a kind of ma. It's the white space in your life. That gives everything else more meaning by contrast. How do you create this corner for yourself? Honestly, it's simple. Just do one thing. Put things you love there. A plant you find beautiful. The book you're currently reading. A mug you really like. A candle or scent that makes you feel calm when you smell it. A few small objects that make you smile when you see them. They don't need to be expensive. They don't need to look impressive to anyone else. They just need to make you feel something good. Then every time you step into that corner, your body and mind will quietly understand. This is my time now. That's how you train yourself toward ritual. Not through willpower alone, but through environment. Through the signals that corner sends you. Researchers who study habit formation have found something fascinating. Our environments are actually more powerful than our intentions. When your environment cues a certain state, your brain and body follow automatically. This is why casinos have no windows and no clocks. They want you to stay in a certain mental state. Your little corner works the same way, but in your favor. When you enter it, your brain learns to shift into a mode of rest, presence, and gentle attention. This isn't magic. It's how your nervous system actually works. So invest a little time in creating that corner. Arrange things thoughtfully. Make it feel like an invitation to yourself. To slow down, to arrive, to be here. Speaking of taking care of yourself, I want to share something I find genuinely important. It's the concept of self-compassion. Or to put it simply, being a good friend to yourself. We're usually very good to our friends. When a friend makes a mistake, we comfort them and help them move forward. When a friend is sad, we stay with them. When a friend needs help, we reach out. But what about ourselves? Are we not often much harsher toward ourselves? When we make a mistake, we keep criticizing ourselves. When we're sad, we tell ourselves to just push through. When we need rest, we say we can't stop yet. Psychologist Kristen Neff has researched self-compassion for many years. She describes 3 core elements. First, self-kindness, treating yourself as you would treat a good friend. Second, common humanity, recognizing that struggle is a shared human experience. You're not alone in your difficulties. Third, mindfulness, seeing your feelings clearly, without over-dramatizing them or pushing them away. Solo weekend time is the perfect practice ground for self-compassion. Try this exercise. Imagine yourself as a dear friend you love very much. Then ask, what does this friend need right now? Are they tired? Do they need a proper rest? Do they want something delicious? Do they need quiet? Or do they actually need something stimulating and new? Then go meet that need. Not for anyone else. For yourself. And here's the thing about this practice. It sounds simple, but it's surprisingly hard. Because many of us have spent years treating our own needs as less important, less urgent, less legitimate. Something to get to eventually, after everything else is done. But your needs don't work well on a waiting list. They have a way of building up, of showing up as irritability, or fatigue, or that flat, gray feeling. When you meet them in small, regular ways, through rituals like the ones we've talked about, they don't accumulate that way. The weekend is your chance to clear the account, to refill what the week drew down, and to do it with intention, with care, with something like love. This might sound selfish at first, but it really isn't. When you take care of yourself well, you have genuine energy to take care of others. When your relationship with yourself is healthy, your relationships with others become healthier too. It's like the instruction they give on airplanes. Put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. Not because you matter more, but because you need to be okay, in order to truly help. And here's something I've noticed in my own life. When I skip the solo time, when I fill every gap with noise and activity and response, I actually become less useful to the people around me. I become more reactive, more scattered, more easily drained. But when I honor my solo time, when I take good care of that inner life, I show up for others with so much more to give. The relationship you have with yourself is the template for every other relationship you have. If you're constantly abandoning yourself, running from your own company, treating yourself harshly, you'll tend to bring some version of that into your relationships with others. But if you can learn to be genuinely good company for yourself, curious about yourself, patient with yourself, kind to yourself, that quality of relating shows up everywhere. So the solo weekend isn't selfish. It's actually one of the most generous things you can do for everyone who matters to you. I also want to offer you a different way to think about the word alone. In English, alone comes from all one, complete in yourself, not missing a piece, not waiting to be completed by something or someone outside. When you're with yourself in a genuinely good way, you're not diminished. You're not in a lesser state. You are, in a way, at full capacity. All one, whole. That's a beautiful thing to aspire to. And the weekend rituals we've talked about are small steps toward that. Toward being someone who can genuinely enjoy the company of their own life. There's a Japanese phrase I love called ichigo ichi. It comes from the world of the tea ceremony. It means each encounter happens only once in a lifetime. This moment will not come again. So meet it with your whole heart. The tea ceremony in Japan is deeply interesting because of this philosophy. Every single ceremony is treated as if it were the only one. The host prepares with extraordinary care. The guest arrives with full attention. Every object, every movement, every cup of tea is honored as if it were happening for the first and last time. This might sound like a lot of effort, but I think it actually makes things easier. Because when something is happening for the only time, you stop taking it for granted. You stop waiting for something better to come along. You stop being somewhere else in your head. You're just here. This phrase is usually used for meetings with other people, but I think it applies perfectly to meetings with yourself. Every quiet weekend morning, every slowly brewed cup of coffee, every book you open just for pleasure, every time you sit in your own corner and feel that stillness that belongs only to you. These are all ichigo ichi moments. Once-in-a-lifetime encounters with yourself, worth meeting with your full presence. Okay, I've been chatting for a while now. Let me bring it all together. Before I do, I want to share one small thought about why rituals matter at a deeper level. We live in a time of infinite distraction. Every moment, there are a dozen things pulling for our attention. Notifications, messages, recommendations, news. The world is very good at taking our attention, and not so great at giving it back. Ritual is your way of taking it back. When you build a ritual, you're making a commitment to your own attention. You're saying, for this window of time, I'm choosing where my awareness goes. Not an algorithm. Not a platform. Not the ambient noise of the world. Me. That's a quiet act of sovereignty. And in a world that's always trying to capture your attention, choosing where it goes, even for just 30 minutes on a weekend morning, is deeply meaningful. A solo weekend with ritual isn't about pretending to enjoy being alone. It's not about performing a lifestyle for social media. It's about genuinely learning to appreciate that space. About building a beautiful relationship with yourself. And it can start with the smallest things. A slowly brewed morning coffee. A book opened for pure pleasure. 30 minutes of movement that reconnects you to your body. A few lines of writing just for yourself. One little corner that belongs only to you. Each of these small rituals is something you're saying to yourself. You're saying, I care about you. You're saying, I see you. You're saying, this moment is ours. And when you start treating yourself this way, something interesting begins to happen. Those solo hours that once felt a little empty gradually become full, rich. You might even find yourself looking forward to them. And maybe, eventually, you'll find that your solo time is no longer something you fall into by default. It becomes something you protect, something you plan for, something you genuinely treasure, because you've discovered something important. Being with yourself is not a consolation prize. It's not what happens when no one else is available. It's a relationship. One of the most important relationships in your life. And like any meaningful relationship, it takes time, attention, and care to cultivate. That's the magic of ritual. It turns ordinary into special. It turns emptiness into abundance. It turns a solo weekend into time that is genuinely, deeply yours. And the beautiful thing is that it compounds. Each weekend you invest in yourself this way makes the next one a little easier, a little richer, a little more genuinely yours. The relationship with yourself deepens. The way any good relationship deepens. Through attention, through time, through care. Through showing up, again and again. For yourself. Because you decided you were worth showing up for. Finally, one question for you. This weekend, what ritual are you going to give yourself? I want to make this very concrete. Right now, before you close this episode, I invite you to choose just one thing. One small ritual for this weekend. Maybe it's, tomorrow morning I'll make my coffee with my phone in another room. Maybe it's, I'll spend 1 hour reading that book I've been meaning to start. Maybe it's, I'll do 20 minutes of stretching and see what my body is telling me. Maybe it's, I'll write just one page about how this week felt. Maybe it's, I'll arrange one little corner of my home just for me. Just one thing. Not 5 things. Not a complete wellness overhaul. One thing. And when you do it, notice how it feels. Not whether it was productive. Not whether you did it perfectly. Just how it felt. Did it feel a little more yours than usual? Did it feel a little slower, a little softer? Did you feel slightly more present than you normally do? If the answer is yes, even just a little, that's it. That's what we're building toward. One small, genuine moment of being with yourself. That's the beginning of everything. It can be tiny. Just one really good cup of coffee. Just the book you've been meaning to open. Just 20 minutes of stretching or jumping rope. Or even just sitting quietly and doing absolutely nothing at all. All of it is perfect. All of it counts. Enjoy this weekend. Enjoy the time you spend with yourself. You deserve it. You always have. And I want to say one more thing before I go. If you try one of these rituals this weekend, and it feels a little awkward, or flat, or strange, that's completely okay. That's actually normal. Building a relationship with yourself takes time. Just like building a relationship with anyone. The first few times you sit with yourself in quiet, your mind might be restless and noisy. It might throw your to-do list at you. It might say this is boring, this is pointless. Just watch those thoughts come, and let them go. Don't argue with them. Don't force it. Just stay with the practice. Because here's what I've learned. The mind quiets eventually. Not completely, but enough. Enough for something underneath to become audible. Something softer and slower than your usual thoughts. Some people call it intuition. Some call it the authentic self. Some call it simply the part of you that knows things. You can't hear that part when life is loud, but in the quiet of a solo morning, with a cup of coffee and nothing demanding your attention, it starts to speak. And learning to hear it, that's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. I'm Jenny. See you next time.